Hello everybody, it's Scott O'Mato, and in this video we're going to take a look at how to build the Tinker Smeltery and various options for doing that. There's other videos out there, but we're just going to try to explore it in some deep detail just to know what's possible, and hopefully we'll discover some new things. All right, now the first thing is you've got a limited set of blocks that you could use. I have another video where I describe how you could use seared stone. You can actually produce that in a small smeltery to save resources of sand and clay. But you can also use a chisel on this guy and convert it to seared bricks afterwards. So these are your options basically: cracked seared bricks, fancy seared bricks, square, seared road, seared creeper face, triangular bricks. You can use all these in the smeltery. Okay, back to seared stone. You don't have to chisel them. You can just cycle them through a crafting table by just putting it in crafting table. It'll give you the next version, and then you could just cycle all the way through that. So you can use those, and those are the only selection of blocks that you can use to build a smeltery. So then let's look at the elements of the smeltery. And I'm going to go ahead and get seared stone bricks just because we're used to using those. Just the look of them. It's iconic for tinkers. All right. So it is a enclosed box, essentially. It doesn't have to have the top on it, but it does have to have a bottom. So it is an enclosed box. It's a multi-block structure. Okay, so you do have to have a bottom and sides, and then this enclosed area determines the size of the smeltery, of how many blocks you could put in at one time. So on this one we could put one block. Now the things that are absolutely required to make it form is the smeltery controller. All right. And even if I went now and put this here, it would not form yet. It forms when you see the fire in front of it. You see flames in front of it. Okay, so it hasn't formed yet. We need to add some type of tank to it. Now it will form, even though the tank has no lava in it. And if we put that in there, it will break. Okay, it needs the empty space. If we put something on the top, it's okay. We could do that. No problem. Anywhere along these edges is not considered part of the structure. We could put whatever kind of blocks that we wanted around there and we'd be fine. No big deal. Okay. Again, that block's not needed. Now, that is the seared tank. What other options do we have? We have the seared gauge. Okay. Seared gauge is like a more decorative form of the tank. Will it form? Yes. Yes. So this will hold lava. We can put our liquids in there. So if I wanted to fill this guy with lava, sir, I can do that. No problem. All right. And so we do have another option with the seared gauge. Well, what about the seared window? Okay. That is a further option. Tank will form just fine. With the seared window, lava can go inside of it. And it is a tank. And each one of these, when you pick them up, I'm in creative, but they will retain their liquid. Okay, and it tells you that in the tooltip that it's the heart of a smeltery, retains liquid when broken, heart of a smeltery retains liquid when broken, and so on. So you've got a choice between which kinds that you want to use. And you also have a choice that if you want to carry these and use them as a tank to fill up liquids, then you can do that. Those are actual pretty much tanks. All right. Now, these hold the lava, so there's no way to, at this time, get the hot metal out of there. So I'll go ahead and just fill this up. And now we have a smeltery that can hold one block. But it holds 8 ingots, okay? Just this one block will hold 8 ingots, and that equates to 1 bucket and 152 millibuckets. All right, so each ingot is 144 millibuckets, And so that's what we get out of it if we have the 8 being held there. So you can't put a full block, but pretty close. Now, the advantage of doing this is that you could easily just put a hopper and pipe items into this, no problem. So if I got myself a hopper or hopper ducts or pipes or anything else, this is where the items go in. The items go in here, your lava goes into there. So that's the fuel for it. And then this is where the items go in, and then this is the interface for it. But if I pipe items in here, no problem. It'll just do one at a time, go through here, process them. All right. Now, then you can visually see them in the Smeltery. So this small little one with the top open has that unique feature of kind of being immersive in that case. So let's just put 2 for right now. You can see the block being rendered, and you could see it being processed here. All right, so it'll go in and it'll get melted. So you can hopper. Now the problem is that every time you do that, it's going to use 50 millibuckets. We put 1 bucket in, which was 1,000 millibuckets. Every time it processes one of these guys, okay, it's going to use 50 millibuckets of lava for just one. And if we have the whole big structure, it's just going to use 50 millibuckets of lava for however many it'll hold at one time. So that's something you want to keep in mind, that it's actually very inefficient on lava at this size. All right. Now, of course, we can now, using that principle, make them whatever size. We could do a 2, and as long as it's surrounded on enclosed, then it's good to go. That would be 2. All right. You could do 2 by 2. Just keep in mind, it's really kind of the floor that decides it. Now, we can't mix them. So I couldn't do, let's just assume these are the controllers or whatever. I'll probably replace them. I couldn't do, for instance, something like this. All right, let's do it this way. All right. So if I had my controller here, Smeltery controller there, and I have my seared tank here, it doesn't form. Okay. The reason behind that, or if I left this and I made these to be seared bricks, it would form now. All right. So if I did this and that, and I put the controller on the outside and the seared tank, it would form. Okay. If I put it inside here and the seared tank, it would form. Now the sizes are going to be different. That's a 2. Okay, this guy's going to be a 4. See? And it's because of that inside contained volume there. Now the reason it won't do it here is because the sizes are different. The size of the enclosed space is different. It's not that it's over the top of it. That's not what the problem is. The problem is the space size is different. So while you can do it decoratively like this, you can't actually put the item in there. Okay, so to make this form another layer, then I would just simply go along here and make them the same shape. The same enclosed volume in the middle is what matters. Then put it there and there. Okay, and it'll form now, and it will have 8. All right, because there's 4. It's a 2 by 2, 2 high, so it's 4. Now the most common way of doing it is to do a 3 by 3, and the reason for that is because it will do a block at a time. So each level of it is a block. So that's a good way to just kind of keep up with how many items you're putting in. All right, so if you do iron, you do 9 iron ingots, you'll get a block of iron in a casting table. So the casting table, or not the casting table, the casting basin, I mean, will do a block at a time. So that helps you keep up with that. So again, the regular way to do it is just enclose this space. If we do put a tank in the beginning, then we have one additional space here to fill, and then it'll form. So you get some symmetry. It doesn't matter where that is, where any of these are in the structure themselves. Hold on just a moment. I'm going to put some dirt. There we go. The actual controller can be there. The tank can be anywhere along the edge, and it'll form. Okay, but it has to have those two items. It can go anywhere. Back here. Okay, and it'll form. Okay, it'll even form with more than one, but only one's going to be used. All right, if I fill this with lava here, okay, I put one bucket there and one bucket there, then it's going to tell you the volume of lava in there. Well, actually it does. I do have two buckets full. So I can have more than one on the outside. Okay, so that's interesting to note. There, so you could have actually more than one tank. Let's see if you could mix seared gauges and tanks. Let me try to keep this stuff straight. There we go. Let's add another one here. Okay. I can. See, I've got 5 buckets now. Add one here. Different type of window. Six buckets. Okay. So you can have these multiple tanks. Now, I've tried that in the past in 110, at least was probably the last time I did that test, and it didn't work. So I don't think. If my memory serves me correctly, you can correct me in the comments. So that's kind of new, maybe, I think. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but that's interesting now that will work. Okay, so we can have these items as such. Now, of course, it's kind of harder to hopper into something when it's in the middle here. You may want to keep an idea about that. You can pipe in from the bottom. You could pipe in from the top. The bottom would be more aesthetically pleasing in this case. All right. So beyond this point, once we've got seared bricks, I've got all these different tanks and such. I'll go ahead and just make another layer. Each layer now on this structure is going to add an additional block, an additional 9 ore that can be processed. Now keep in mind, ores are doubled, right? So you put in an ore, you're going to get 2 out. So you're actually getting 2 blocks for each block that you put in, because the ores are doubled inside of here. So just keep that in mind when you're building your structure. You may want to cut it in half, because it's going to do twice the amount that you think it'll do in the output. Okay, so anywhere along this edge, we can put the drain. All right, the drain is an input and output. All right, so a drain can go here. All right, anywhere along here, and you can have multiples of them. So I could have multiple drains along here, and then I can add a faucet to it. All right, and then from there you can put the casting basin, casting table, those various options that you'd like. Okay, so here's a casting basin, there's a casting table. Now the casting table is going to do your casts. You use your casts on that, of these, the shapes, and you can use clay ones that'll be consumed. Then in the casting basin, you're making full blocks at a time. So you're going to need enough to output 9 ingots for the full block. But again, you could put these anywhere along the structure, and you could put them higher in the structure. Oops, not that guy. The drain can be higher in the structure as well, and it would work just the same. So if I go ahead and put some little bit of iron in there and let it process, then it will, and by the way, this is showing you the maximum capacity too. So it's showing us that we are going to have 5 buckets, but it's showing us the full capacity of each of these tanks, the total calculation of that. And we can see that just the 2 ores are being rendered inside of there. And in this case, 2 ores are processing at once. So the higher the structure is, the bigger the structure is, all those ores are going to process at one time. So it's twice as fast as that one that we had, but potentially it's going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 18 times faster than just the single one, while using that same 50 millibuckets of lava. Okay, it's going to use that same 50 millibuckets of lava, but it can potentially now do 18. All right, and again, you'll double those, so you'll end up with 36 ingots. Now, of course, inside of here, we'll see the rendered liquid, and it will hurt us if we go into here. If we go into there, we will take damage. If we're inside of here, it could kill us because we could be trapped if we can't get out. But it'll also add blood. If you fall in there, it'll add blood into the smeltery, and then you'll have that to deal with. You can use it in crafting. You can put mobs in there and get blood from them. And blood can be used in night slime or pig iron, actually, for its production, and then the coagulated blood and all that kind of stuff. You can investigate that. All right, so this is kind of a good working size here, but we do have some other options in how we can lay these things out. Okay, if we're keeping in mind that working in blocks is something that we would want to do. Now, the actual maximum build, apparently for higher versions here, is 9 by 9 all the way to the build limit, which is huge, 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 huge. But that's apparently the maximum limit that you could do. All right, that's cool to know. But again, if we want to go ahead and keep a structure like this 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, one thing we can do is continue, of course, to go up into the sky with it. So let's say that, we had a seared window there, and then we had a drain here on both sides. All right, then we would take our seared bricks. It forms, just going to give us 1, but we could continue to build up, or really down would be ideal, into the ground. Okay, so at this time we could use a stone or a builder's wand and build up. Really can't. Why? Oh, because it's the stone one. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's see. Wand. The stone one will only go vertical, or this one go high. I think it's maybe only the diamond that'll go up. Yeah. There you go. So you could just keep building this up, and then once it's 9 high, it will have those 9 blocks to it. So that's just 4 high. Okay. Looks to be more than that. Oh, okay, now it updated. Yeah, so that's 7 high. Then we can add 2 more. And there's our, in the center, we could just cap it off, and that of course breaks down or sets the boundary for it, for what the top of the unit is. But keep in mind, we could go into the ground with this. So I'm in a super flat where it's bedrock, I believe. Yeah, no, I could technically go into the ground, which is good. So let me go ahead and fill that again. All right. So that's another option, and you could do a 2x2 and go less. So you can kind of decorate this out a little bit to be smaller in your base, and that's something I don't commonly see people doing, but you can do it as long as you keep this symmetrical enclosed shape. That's what matters, is that it's symmetrical and it's enclosed. All right. So let's look at one more thing that you can do that's useful. In the smeltery, you create alloys, right? Like manulin's the most common one that people know about, that they're trying to create because of its good stats. So we know manulin here is, and there's a tab in JEI for alloying. Manulin is cobalt and ardite in equal measure. Okay, so 1 ingot and 1 ingot would equal 1 ingot of manulin, which is kind of strange. That's unique to manulin if you look at some of the alloys, which we'll go over later in another video. But that is the alloying part. So anytime you put cobalt and ardite into one of these smelteries, it's going to automatically alloy. So one thing you kind of want to do is have separate. If you wanted cobalt for some parts, you either exceed the amount of ardite that you have, or you don't put ardite in with it. You drain it first or whatever, but it's pretty common to have separate smelteries to do that. So one thing you can do, again, that I don't commonly see people do, is you can stack smelteries together. You just have to obey a few rules. All right, so let's say we have our 3x3. I'll just keep it really simple here. Okay, we have our 3x3, and then just so we can get to the side if we want rather easily, then I'm going to put the controller here because you can hop her in and then just use a seared windows fine. That's just for example. I would normally use the gauge. I kind of like the gauge the best. All right, so if we do another layer here, let's say that's a 9x9. Let's actually just go ahead and enclose this. Let's make it as small as we possibly can to have them stacked. Okay, just as few blocks as possible. So we'll just do the inside. We'll just cover the inside. And we're basically creating a roof at that point. So we have a 9. Now, if I were to go from here, right, and put another smeltery here on the outside, okay, like that, and then surround it, would that work? Okay, that's the question. Would that work? Okay, and let me come around. Could probably use the builder's one, except they're uneven. Okay, that hasn't changed the size of our initial smeltery here. Notice that they're uneven. So that can be just a decorative piece. There's a lot of ways to decorate them from this point. But if I change this to be a smeltery controller here, and then I put my seared window there, would it form? Yes, it does form. Okay, so we just need a space, a floor in between them. All right, and then of course that's an active smeltery. So there's another 9x9. So now we have 2 smelteries, and keep in mind that cost-wise, these guys aren't too bad. Just some few seared bricks. So now you could have 2 separate smelteries, one for just dealing with the single metals, like cobalt. You could, put cobalt in here. And then once you drain it, put your ardite in there. Then the other one could be for alloying. Now the alloying one, you would want to be a little bit bigger because you're going to put, more items in there, obviously, more capacity for stuff. But right now we can get 72 ingots in. All right, and that's pretty big, actually. 72 ingots would give you plenty to alloy with, just keeping in mind that you could do, say if you have 2 cobalt, then you'd need 2 ardite, and so forth. So you could do 4 of each one at a time, which is sufficient for pretty much any of the tools that you're going to make the specific parts. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for this video. This shows you several different options of things that you could do, and keep in mind that this is something you could do in the ground, and a 4x4, it could be smaller, or this guy could be a little bit bigger. So we're always seeing the same kinds of designs, and then aesthetically, you've got tons of choices throughout here. Surround them in different blocks, put walls around them, things of that nature, to decorate your base a little bit more, because it just seems common in all the Let's Plays I've seen that every smeltery looks the same, and I think it may just have a little bit to do with people not deconstructing what is actually required to make the smeltery. So I hope that's clear. Let me know if you have any questions, or either further feedback, or you want to see more videos of this type. And I do appreciate you so much for watching. This is Scott O'Mato. Take care. Bye-bye.